YouTubers, I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much for joining me. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2022. Looks like they're moving the live webcam there for Yellowstone. You know, at the end of all my videos, I always tell people to stay safe. And you stay safe by being prepared for any type of disaster. You have food and water, medical supplies. You start out with the simple things and then add on to it. You never stop prepping. Looks like they were looking at some buffalo there. Moving the camera around. Now recently, a scientific paper came out talking about Yellowstone. I believe it came out 4, maybe 5 days ago. Let's move this over here because the steam is pretty dark. You know, for the rock to melt, the water temperature's got to be up over 2,000 degrees. So when you see dark steam coming up from the different geysers, you know that there is an event going on where it's heating up. The magma under the ground is heating the water, and the water is melting the rocks. But anyways, 4 or 5 days ago, they came out with a paper saying that the pockets of melt in the magma chamber were about 20% melted. Now, in the past, they always claimed that these pockets of melt were only about 2% melted, and that, you know, we don't have to worry about an eruption at Yellowstone until it gets to be about 30%. Well, from 2% to 20% since 2015, this is an image of the magma reservoir that they put out in 2015. When they found out that the magma chamber was even larger than what they thought, they keep revising it, saying that, oh, it's bigger. Oh, guess what? It's even bigger yet. And it's bigger yet. So we got a rhyolite cap here between the two resurgent domes, which is Mallard Lake and the Sour Creek. And then you'll see here we got on the sides areas of basalt. This image is from January 1st of 2020 from USGS. Shallow zone, only rhyolite erupts. No basalt. Rhyolite is one of the most explosive types of magma that you can possibly have. The shallow magma chamber is about 90 kilometers long. Now this is from 2015. Actually the study from 2014. And is 2.5 times larger than prior, less accurate studies. Oh, in 2014. This article was 2015. The magma reservoir contains between about 5 to 15% of molten rock melt. And it occupies pore spaces between solid crystalline material. Now, a new study says that it is about 20% melt. Big difference. Other research has suggested that the melt is between 5 and 15%. No, 20% is a big difference. And I have told you how there is pockets of melt only about 600 feet under the crust of the earth where everyone is walking along the boardwalks. Yeah, only 600 feet. The length of a football field, I believe, is about 350 feet in length. So, less than 200 football fields, yeah, you got areas where the ground is melted. I have also told you how any volcano can erupt with no notice at all. The magma can come up through the plume within 10 minutes. And yeah, kapow. Yeah, look how dirty that is. I was watching it over the weekend and actually had one of the boreholes working there at the Madison River area. Then it stopped working, but I did download the data before it stopped working, and the borehole is still not working. I've told you how this caldera, this huge caldera, is recharging, taking a long time because it is a very big volcano, and it's been recharging for at least 2,000 years. Many of the trees that you see now here grew up what they call the quiet time, and there's areas where now they are dying off because of the gases coming up and killing them from the roots up. And I'm sure many of you remember the buffalo that died when there was a sudden gush of gases, and they dropped dead where they stood. Here's another image of the dead buffalo that they found. It was kind of in a little gully where the gases couldn't dissipate, and when it came up, they just dropped over dead instantly. This was on March 11th, 2004. So these pockets of melt that are up to 20% melted are not 2% to 15%, but they're saying 16 to 20%. I wonder what area of the park that is at. And it's shallow. These pockets are only 3 to 8 kilometers, and they're overlapping, it says. So 3 kilometers is 1.3 miles in depth, and 8 kilometers is about 4.79 miles. Many volcanoes, when the earthquakes get to about 5 kilometers, or 5 miles, I should say, they would be very concerned. They used to say that they would be very concerned when they started having earthquakes of a magnitude 2 at Yellowstone. And these are two different signs of things are very concerning there at Yellowstone. You can download this paper, which I downloaded, and it looks like most of the heat is in the Madison River area. And here they have a side view and the depth. Very concerning. I would say that the caldera is definitely a lot bigger than what they have told us when it's got kilometer distance here. All the way over, almost, 250 kilometers wide, which would be about 155 miles. Now, the main center of the pockets of melt looks like about 100 kilometers, which would be about 60 miles. Can you imagine an area 60 miles wide blowing out? And they have more images. This is 10 kilometers in depth, 20 kilometers, 30, and 40. 10 kilometers would be about 6.2 miles, which would be in the center of the magma chamber. Again, this image is from 2015. The roof of the caldera, I've told you before, is about 3 kilometers. So let's go back to this image. This image 2, I believe, is from 2015. And let's pull it over. Okay. This partial melt is actually not 2% melt, but up to, supposedly, there's areas, like I said, overlapping from 15 to 20% melt. That's a wow moment. Another image they show looking straight down, and then also a side view, and it says here a depth of 5 kilometers. So that would be about 3 miles. This is where you can download this data, and it is on science.org. Let me bring this up. Let me show you the web address. I'll give you a link to it. And they're saying this is all rhyolite, the most explosive type magma you can possibly have. High silica content, meaning lots of gases. I believe that they have known about this since 2018. Yeah, probably had to go through peer review and all that. And they're just now telling us. So who knows how much the melt is currently. In this study, we utilized continuous recordings of ground motion from all available broadband seismic stations deployed in our study region between 2000 and 2018. So I have 4 spectrograms that I downloaded the material from. This here is that 6.7 earthquake that had occurred there along the Tonga Trench up by the islands of Samoa. Yeah, you can see here at Maple Creek, which is the Madison River area. Let me make that bigger. All the gases and heated water that came up during that time. Let's go to the seismic signature. Rounded tops. Yeah, really sloshed the magma chamber there at Yellowstone. Here we have the western boundary, which is by Henig Lake, the western boundary for the entrance for Yellowstone. You can see the line of melt, how it became very, scattered, diffused, mixed up. The hot water and gases that came up. Let's go a little bit farther. And that's where, yeah, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of melt. All right, let's go back to that, and I'll show you the seismic signature. Again, rounded tops. The magma was definitely sloshing. Little West Thumb, which is on the western side of Yellowstone Lake. Not so much, but we do have lots of, you can barely see it, faint lines of heated water and gases. And we'll go to the seismic signature. Again, this is Little West Thumb, as I call it. Here we have Mary Lake. When there's earthquakes there at Yellowstone, yeah, Mary Lake really sloshes a lot. I can't really see where the earthquake first came in at. But yeah. And then going to the, oh, this is more recent. Okay. We got an earthquake that came in. Yeah, I'll have to check to see where we got an earthquake at. Where did that occur at? That's a recent one, a fairly large one. This here is the live stream view. I do not have this data downloaded. It looks like it was there. Let me zoom in again. Along the Tonga Trench. Yeah, another one, a 5.3. Yep, that one's shaking up Yellowstone also. It was deep, 68.7 miles in depth. This one right here is at 6.7 that I already showed you just a few minutes ago. Altogether, there's been 5 earthquakes of a magnitude 2.5 or greater within the last 24 hours. Yeah, so that one is what's showing up at Yellowstone right now. So the top one, I got Maple Creek. That looks like the largest signature. Why am I not surprised? The next one down is Little West Thumb. And this here is the western boundary. And the bottom one is Mary Lake. Alright, while I'm downloading the helio, or the data, here's the helio plots. This is that original 6.7. And they're not showing it here on these plots of that recent earthquake. But here you can see that 6.7, yeah, Texas, New York, Idaho. Yeah, it made the earth ring like a bell. I wonder if that earthquake actually came in from Alaska, because this is along the Aleutian Islands. Let me go back to the map of recent earthquakes. There was a magnitude 4.8 along the Aleutian Islands there. 31.5 miles in depth. 1533 Universal Time. Nope, that wasn't Alaska because, see, it came in before that. Here we got 1530. Alright, I had to close it all out and then reopen it. So, let's go to... Let me move these around here a little bit. I'm going to put Mary Lake over, or Maple Creek over here first. And, let's take a look at Maple Creek because, yeah, that's the area where we have the most activity. And there's the earthquake right there. Let's take a look at the, oh my goodness. Not good. Yeah, yeah. I don't see a P wave on it. Yeah, it could even be there at Yellowstone. I don't know. But let's close this out. And see, it doesn't really show up here at Little West Thumb, so it might not be. Alright. Yeah, once in a while I have a monitor that doesn't pick up these faraway earthquakes. Okay, let's go to the western boundary. And I'll bring it down and I'll bring it over. That actually shook up the caldera more than that 6.7. Look at that. Yeah, not good. Not good. Let's take a look at the live webcam. Alright. Yeah, we got Linus, I believe that is. Oop, I hit the wrong button. Okay. Trying to move this over for you so you can see it. That one's looking a little dirty. I want to add this in as I'm downloading, saving the data. It's a lengthy process to put out a video, but they're looking at Beehive and look how dark that is. Yeah, it's going to get darker today after this earthquake. They were dirtier over the weekend when I was watching. Looks like they're going to zoom in. Yeah, it's dirty back up over here too. Yep, it shook it up. Yeah, more than that 6.7. Alright, this is tectonic in nature, it looks like. Yeah, a lot of sharpened points. Some of them are rounded though, see that? Alright, let's go to another one. Let me make that smaller. Mary Lake. Let's make Mary Lake bigger. Okay, let's see what Mary Lake's showing. Yep, yep. Not good. Not good at all. So if we compare it to that 6.7, let me make that. See the difference? See the difference in this magma that came up compared to, let me get another one here. I'll just pull western boundary and I'll put them side by side is what I'll do. Let me bring this down. Okay. Okay, and let's make this one smaller. And I'll put them side by side is what I'll do. Alright, here we have the western boundary. This is that recent earthquake that came in. This is that 6.7 Maple Creek. Yeah, okay, so let's go to the 6.7 for western boundary. And we'll go to this recent earthquake. Let me get that and get that. Yeah. Yeah, you know, for magma to come up and for an eruption, like I said, it could be 10 minutes or less. And if this, in fact, was the earthquake that came there from the Tonga Trench by Samoa, yeah, not good, not good, not good. All right, I want to see if there's any screaming on here. Let's take a look. All right, this one here is the western boundary, and we'll pull it across. And we'll pull it across. I don't see any screaming. All right, Maple Creek. Let's bring this over and come down a little bit farther. No, I don't see any screaming. What do we got here? No, I don't. All right, there is something. Let me go over here. Right there. Right there before it. Again, this is Maple Creek. Let's go to the signature. Let me check out. Okay, 859. Western boundary, 859. Right there. Okay. I can't use Little West Thumb because the data didn't come in. Let's see, right there. It stopped recording. Maybe that's why. Yeah, I don't know. Mary Lake. Well, let's just say maybe there was a temporary glitch in the power. But it looks like there's another episode there just after midnight there at Mary Lake, 059. Let's go down here and take a look at what this earthquake did there at Mary Lake. And we'll take a look at the signature. Some are rounded, some are pointed. And this is what it was showing when I just pulled the files a little while ago. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, went back to the live webcam, and down here at the bottom, look how dark that is. We'll probably see an increase in this darkening of, the melted rock coming up. I'm going to wait a minute and see if they move the camera over there to, Firehole River. Firehole River. That whole area, there was a rhyolite flows from Mallard Lake Resurgent Dome, and there's like a dike intrusion along Mallard or along Firehole River. All right, let me go back to this right here. See what we got going on now. All right, well, this is kind of long. It's a 22-minute video. Yeah. So what are your thoughts? Like I said, I tell everyone, be safe. You're safe by being prepared. Just saying, okay, be safe, and then a lot of people just don't get prepared. Say, oh, God will save me. Well, God gives you common sense to get prepared, to have food and water and things like that. I was listening to Canadian Prepper last night. They had a nuclear expert on there, and he talked about nuclear bombs and how people can survive a nuclear war. But the one thing that you cannot survive is if the power station goes into meltdown. Because a nuclear blast, you have, a half-life of X amount of radiation from that instant blast. Whereas a nuclear meltdown for a power plant, it goes on and puts out the radiation for months and months and months. So anyways, yeah, Be prepared. Have food, water, yeah, all that stuff, medical stuff. Start out with little things and then build up to the more expensive things as you can. And that's what I've done. I started out with just canned food and water, and now I'm pressure canning my own food. I got all kinds of medical supplies, all kinds. But I started out with just the Band-Aids, and then later down the road, I got things for burns and staplers, skin staplers for human flesh, for wounds. I got kits for sewing up wounds. But you start out small. You get the little bandages, and then you get the more advanced things. But you will not survive any type of disaster if you don't prepare. And that's how you stay safe. So what are your thoughts? Please put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Be prepared, and then you are safe. And I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.